A girl has just finished her favorite romance manga series and scenario because there will be no more volumes and the series has been cancelled. She determines that now is the best moment to go commit suicide. But before she can enter the afterlife on her own, the man behind her calls her out. He warns her that what she is doing is extremely risky and she thinks he is attempting to talk her out of jumping to her death. She then takes out a knife and tells him that she must die, so he must avoid her. She also threatens to kill him if he gets any closer, warning he will catch a deadly disease. However, the guy calmly walks into the knife as she's pointing it at him. The guy merely takes the girl and says, "Kids these days don't know how to do things anymore. If you're going to jump off a bridge, you've got to do a flip." The girl screams because she doesn't want to kill anyone before she dies. He then picks her up by the face and places her down on the opposite side of the bridge for a stabbing victim. He appears to be acting quite animated as he questions what the fatal illness would be like. Would it be like organs liquefying or dismembering spontaneously? But it got much worse. At the very end, the guy falls onto a train and splats against the windshield, and the girl sits there crying, realizing that she's done it again, driving someone to their death because she put off taking her own death for far too long. But even as she continues to crying, the man's head rolls up to her and for some reason is still alive. This indicates to her that, as he fixes his body and fully regenerates, he has now realized what she meant when she described the dreadful disease. But clothing don't come in a package, so the girl punches him in the nuts out of fear. "Don't worry, those will grow back too." She flees from him, believing him to be a zombie, but he gets hold of her and claims he is undead rather than a zombie. He wants to ask her some questions after hearing her say that her illness was unlucky, but the cops soon close in on the scene since there have been reports of a guy doing splat on a train and right now. He needs to get out of here because he's a naked man carrying a screaming girl. He uses his blood to become rocket boots and soars into the sky. Later, he explains to her how he was able to fly by using his blood to regenerate his legs quickly and shoot them out to gain momentum, but she wasn't listening because she was trying to flee. He didn't bring her all the way up here just to let her go. So he dangles her by her legs and says he still has some questions to ask. She says it's okay because she was planning to die today, but after a quick ride on the merry-go-round, she is too scared to continue and promises to tell him everything she knows about Unluck. She recalls that her parents told her when she was 8 years old that they would be gone for a week because they were going on a business trip. She kissed them and gave them a final hug, but an hour later, the plane crashed. She started wearing clothing to cover herself as much as possible after that day, since anyone who came into direct contact with her flesh would always get wounded in some way. After stating this, the guy uses the chance to try out the unlucky effects by sticking his hand inside her blouse for some direct, new breast skin contact. Sure enough, a plane carrying a bunch of bananas somehow dropped directly on top of the guy. While the guy is still recovering, the girl seizes the chance to flee, but she trips over a banana and falls off the side of the structure. She is shocked that a banana could end her life. She never fell in love, can do anything intriguing or exciting, and since no game, no life has a second season and she can't die yet, it's a win. Fortunately, he has other plans. He uses his flesh propulsion to fly down to slow her down while burying a bone in the wall to stop her fall. He warns her that he won't be letting her go lightly since he has finally discovered someone who might be able to end his abnormally long life. He may be able to harness her unluck to produce the greatest misfortune she has ever seen and could even kill him permanently if he can figure out what causes it. In order to find a way to commit suicide, he now intends to bring her to his hideout. While this is going on, a few others in suits are observing him take off and have been instructed to capture the girl once her talents have been verified. Although they haven't yet identified themselves, the girl is Fuko, and the guy is Andy at the guy hideout. Andy has already put the shift in effect with contact duration to the test, urges her to remove all of her clothing in order to maximize the surface area since she wants to move on it now. She naturally flees, saying she can tolerate him touching her to commit suicide, but that she is not emotionally ready to strip for him. He pursues her, telling her that the reason she isn't telling him about her skill is simply because she hasn't given it to him in its whole. While sprinting, her jacket becomes tangled in a hook and falls off, exposing her Rapunzel-esque hair. Since anyone who tries to cut her hair would only end up dead because of her, she's powerless to stop herself. As soon as he hears this, Andy grabs her chin, takes out a hairdresser's kit, and starts cutting her hair. She worries that bad luck will strike as soon as he gets go of her, but he assures her he won't disappoint. He responds that he was a hairstylist a very long time ago when she asks if he was one before. After 15 minutes of holding her, he finishes her haircut and she is thrilled with it, but something significant must be about to happen. A few seconds later, Amy's head is cut off not due to a natural disaster, but rather because the suit guys have come to arrest Fuko and were ready with a capsule to prevent her from regenerating. Fuko almost tells him to let her go because she believes they have come to save her, but she is wrong. They are here to capture her for themselves. They are an organization designed to control people with special abilities such as Andy and Fuko. and Fuko is at the top of their priority list. Fuko's power sucks the luck out of anyone who touches her, but a layer of clothing seems to protect her from this effect. Her powers are definitely dangerous, and they have no other purpose other than to kill people, which is what they think Andy was doing. Fuko, however, corrects them and states that the only person that Andy intended to kill is himself. The leader of the group becomes angry and tells her to be quiet or he will kill her, because her power is already very dangerous, but she still speaks, and thanks Andy for touching her without fear and for being relatively nice to her. But then the unlucky touch of Andy from before strikes him in the place where his head is and also the guy who held the capsule. If he falls into the hole and Andy regenerates his body, then he can do whatever he wants again. The leader tells the others that even if they cannot kill him outright, they can cut him up into small pieces and maybe reseal him. After all, he is still an amateur in terms of fighting. However, they are wrong. At this point, Andy is still an amateur. But that is because he has given himself brain damage to suppress some of his memories to save them on disk space. However, if he regenerates that portion of his brain, then 100 years of fighting experience will come flooding back to him, and with 100 years of experience and an immortal's body, no one will be able to win a battle against him. The Sioux companions were able to inflict a lot of damage on Andy, but he was able to easily cut and kill them. Then he blocked all the memories because his brain started to shut down due to overload. The suit guy realized that Andy had him beat in every way if he tried to fight him, so he changed tactics and threatened Fuko with the death of his head if Andy didn't cut off Fuko's head and throw it over the body without regenerating. Andy is upset that he won't be able to fight him again, but if Fuko's life is at stake, he is willing to comply with that ultimatum. Fuko advises him to forget about her and focus on himself. It would be better if she died because she had hurt so many people, Andy says. I don't care what she thinks. I'm going to save her life, he says, even if it means me ending up in an underground lab. Fuko is touched by Andy's willingness to risk his own freedom for her, even though he has only known her for 2 hours. Fuko decides to give anything she wants. She knows how to set off the worst possible outcome of bad luck. She breaks free from her captor's grip and jumps up to kiss Andy's head as it drops to the ground. Andy realizes what she has just done and holds the suit man in place, telling Fuko to get out of there as she waits for what is coming next with a big smile on her face. A freaking meteorite falls out of the sky and smashes into the building, destroying it along with Andy, the suit guy, and Andy's hideout. It's safe to say that Fuko sits there in shock that Andy might be gone for good after all this time. However, Andy does walk out of the building missing several teeth and with a sword embedded in his chest. He thanks her for helping him back there, still carrying his banana. She introduces herself as Fuko and asks him what his name is. Of course, he doesn't remember because of his repressed memories, but she can't let him go around with no name. So she comes up with Andy as a name, and he's fine with that. Andy comments on how his single kits refers to all this damage that he says it would probably do more if they smashed, and hearing that Fuko's back to running again. Fuko has always believed that she deserved to be killed after all the deaths and destruction that she has caused with her ability over the years. But after meeting Andy, she felt that she finally found someone that she could spend time with without worrying about killing him. But now she is beginning to regret spending time with him. Andy has her up against a wall and his meats are still out there, mind you. He asked her to smash again because that will most likely trigger the unluck in the most epic way possible. But his theory doesn't consider Fuko's feelings, and she's left trying to figure out how to say something before Andy finishes his stretches and before Andy goes balls deep. Fuko says, unluck is based on liking. The more you like someone, the worse their luck will be. In addition to Andy and his parents, Fuko has kissed her grandfather, whom she was very afraid of. He only got a broken ankle, but he died 3 years later, which is too long for it to be connected to her bad luck. This shows that the more Fuko likes someone, the worse her luck will be. If Andy tries to crush her right here, Fuko will hate him forever and he will only get average deaths from it, which makes sense to Andy. The new information changes his plans, so he says that he can't kill her for a while, and he asks her to come with him. Fuko goes with him and is taken to the armory, which Andy has just built, having had plenty of time to set up bases around the world for what he needs. This allows him to deal with the suit people if they ever attack him now that he is here. Andy then gets to work, having Fuko suited with armor against virtually any form of attack imaginable. This is a defensive measure in case the suit people come after her again, and after yesterday's failed attack, you can be sure that they will. Fuko believes they may have been deterred by a literal meteor falling last night, but that doesn't really apply to them because they have a team of people who are capable of defying the world's rules like Fuko, Andy, and the negators. After the fight, they know exactly what they are capable of, whereas Fuko and the negators are still in the dark about what they can do, leaving them at a huge disadvantage. The negators actually captured Andy 50 years ago and did quite a bit of damage to him. He spent 10 years in a lab while they disfigured him over and over again. Fuko is surprised that Andy is over 50 and asks him how old he is. Andy interjects asking what he thinks they'll do after they capture her or how many will die while they're trying to figure out the laws of unluck. Maybe they'll cut off her finger to see if the rules of the unluck still work with severed body parts. Maybe they'll even force smash her in different positions and see what happens. They're worse than Andy, so she has to trust him to keep her safe from them. They go on this road trip together and Fuko asks Andy where they're going, but he says they're just going wherever the road takes them, or in short, running forever or until the gas runs out. Fuko is concerned because it means they will eventually be caught when they are no longer able to escape, and she begins to think that Andy would have been better off leaving her behind because he would be trapped in the lab again if he got caught. However, Andy does not intend to leave her behind before he falls in love with her and she can kill him with unluck. Fuko appreciates his protection but tells him that she will not fall in love with him. But Andy is sure that this is going to happen while Fuko keeps arguing with him. Andy notices a crack forming in the sky and knows that the organization has come. 50 years ago, the people who caught him shot him out of one of the warp gates. He tells Fuko that he will die stuck and the Union busts through a giant robot, smashing Andy into the ground, and Fuko is thrown into a nearby wall by the force of it. But she is relatively unharmed due to the protective gear she is wearing. Fuko runs to Andy's side, but is pulled back by an unknown force and gets caught up in a guy's grip. She looks up at the guy and realizes he's one of the bad guys, so she desperately tries to escape from him in the scene that is easy to spoil. He tells the robot he has captured Fook, and the robot orders him to kill Fuck as instructed while capturing Andy, but the blue-haired guy doesn't want to actually kill Fuko because she's so cute. Meanwhile, Andy gets away from the robot's fist and is going to strike him with his sword, but suddenly stops moving completely. Fuko believes that whoever is holding her is the reason for Andy's loss of movement, but as he gets punched backwards, he regains movement and realizes they both have external restraining types. The big guy paralyzes the person's body and the blue hair guy takes control of your body, although Andy doesn't know exactly what they're negating to do this. Blue hair guy praises him for figuring out most of their abilities in a split second, but says knowing that it won't make much difference to him. Andy goes up to the robot, gets hit in the face, recovers from the punch, and returns it to the robot. This is Andy's way of fighting the ability that he gets hit and then gets hit back as soon as his movement comes back. Blue hair guy thinks it's a pretty crazy way of fighting, especially since Andy still feels all the pain from the punch. Fuko asks blue-haired guy, whose name is Shen, if they are really lost to the Union forever, and Shen says, unfortunately, that's the truth. Since the meteor strike, her danger level has risen from 5 to 8 out of 10. So no matter where Fuko and Andy go, someone will always be after them, assuming they can escape them here. If that's the case, Fuko asks why she and the robot aren't being hunted, and he tells her they're special cases because they're part of a special team within the Union. Once you become a part of this team, you're exempt from all pursuits as long as you commit to carrying out missions assigned to you. However, there are still certain tests that must be completed before you can join the team, and as the robot is preparing to kill Fuko, he informs her that there aren't any openings on the team, and there won't be any new additions until she's crushed under his thumb. Andy rushes over to rescue her and tells her that joining the Union is a good idea because they won't be found out later, and if the Union only hires new staff when there's a job opening, they'll just have to fire those two to make room. Once they're on the team, he doesn't know what they're going to do, but he knows that as long as he's with Fuko, he won't let her die and won't give her up to anyone. And that makes her blush and maybe fall in love with him too. She takes off her glove, touches Andy, and runs away, but before she leaves, she turns back to tell Andy that he's going to have a lot of bad luck. But it's not because she loves him or anything. As Andy backs away from the two of them, a huge truck barrels down on them, and they're all up in flames. Andy flies out of the truck, regenerating his body, and the other two emerge unharmed from the inferno. Because it didn't work, Andy moves to his next strategy and has to find out exactly what their abilities are as he runs into a building. From what he's seen so far, the big guy blocks all of Andy's moves once he's in battle stance, which is probably inevitable, but Andy doesn't know anything about Shen. So he decides to wait until he has figured out what his ability is, but after a long deliberation, he notices that there are beeps coming from a stick of dynamite. When the countdown reaches 0, the building collapses, leaving Fuko to wonder if this is part of her bad luck, or if it is just an accident. In the rubble, the big guy crawls to his feet, muttering something about if it weren't for his suit, he'd have been dead. He wants to hurry and finish the mission. Scanning around, he finds Andy's hand in the debris, so he's over him and tries to hold him back. But it was all a trap. Andy shows up behind him, using his finger like a gun, and shoots him through the head. Shen finally finds Andy, sees his teammate's body, and realizes that he's dead. Andy wants to fight, even though he's already got a place at the table, because he still has one more thing to give Fuko. Later, Fuko arrives and finds Andy struggling with Shen, and every blow Andy makes is countered perfectly. He notices Fuko holding his sword, so he asks Fuko to throw it to him so he can strike Shen down. But before he can, Shen stops dead in front of him. Fuko realizes that things are getting worse, so she touches Shen to use his bad luck, but he dodges it too. Shen explains that his power corrupts their minds, so there's no way they can hit him or get away from her, but because his teammate is gone, there's a seat left at the table. He asks which of them will join them, and Andy says if it's come to this, then it's going to be Fuko, and he doesn't mind getting sent off to a lab again. Fuko finds it funny that he gives up so easily, but he says that he will find his way out eventually, and even if he is an old lady by then, he will find her before he dies. Shen thinks everything is done and asks Fuko to go with him, but she throws on her jacket, tells him to turn his head for 10 minutes and tells him not to do it because it will undo his power. She says he must because she's going to Netflix and watch with Andy, except for the Netflix bit. Fuko thanks her luck that she has never been in a romantic relationship, so now that there is someone who is willing to risk her freedom for her, she feels it is the best chance for him to get killed by bad luck. If that means raw dog here on the pay, so be it. Shen finds the whole thing funny and gives them the option to stay together as long as one of the members of the group kills one of the others in the group. Then both of them can join in. He also tells them that another member of the group will be in Russia in 3 days to investigate one of these currents negators. If they kill this one, then they're good to go, but there will be others coming in the next 3 days. With that, Shen takes off and the group has their next destination. Neither of them has a passport, so they will be hitchhiking. Andy also asks Fuko if she is 18 years old, and she says yes, which is great because it means she can drink over there, and then it's vodka party time. Meanwhile, the girl in the satellite space station uses the station's cameras to spy on Earth and spot a yacht where Andy is riding with Fuko. The yacht has been modified to go much faster than normal, and Andy is enjoying the ride. Fuko, on the other hand, is curled up under a seat because she's still worried about other Union members hunting them all the way down to Russia. But Andy doesn't care that he didn't just pull his yacht out of storage so she can hide under the chair. He pulls her out, tells her to have fun, and that's an order. In the end, all of Fuko's hiding was in vain as they are ambushed by the Union workers out at sea, and Andy has to take over the wheel to avoid the missiles that are coming at them. Fuko is certain that they are lost as there is no boat that can outrun the jet, but Andy doesn't seem too concerned as in the worst case scenario, they can use luck to blow up the place with yet another natural disaster, and she screams that it doesn't work that way and luck isn't some sort of AoE attack. But Andy says that it's all about using your ability to its best advantage, and he picks up a live grenade to show her that his ability isn't just about death prevention, but about more than that. In this case, if he partially disfigures his arm and regenerates it in the same place, he can shoot it out with a hand grenade. The hand grenade will blow up the jet, and Fuko and Andy think they are safe, but Andy reminds them that they still need to kill one of the Union members with the same golden emblem Shen had, which is most likely an indicator of their being part of the Union's 10 negators. He knows who some of these negators are because he knows who some of them are. For example, there's the person who created the impenetrable katana, which Andy has impenetrable. Another is the mad scientist who experimented on him after his capture 50 years ago, and the last girl who captured him can create invisible barriers out of nowhere, which is how she caught Andy in the trap, by trapping his head in the barrier and leaving him with no room to regenerate, so it will be very bad if he faces her. But he will face her no matter how difficult if it comes to it. He won't let anyone stop him from achieving his goal, and he has the option to activate Unluck in worst case scenario. Fuko continues to argue that Unluck cannot be used in this way, but as another jet flies by, Andy says that he needs to know the boundaries of Unluck before he gets into a bad situation. Fuko hears this and realizes that it means that Andy is going to touch her again, which she does not deny. In the background, we see the space station girl looking down and saying to herself, "I love Andy, I'm going to call it Yandir." She then shoots some of her invisible barrier down to Earth, destroying the boat in an instant. Andy woke up in the water wondering what had happened to him. But before he could think about that, he had to save Fuko from drowning. He found her under the debris and swam down to save her before she dies. He wedged himself under the debris and used the power of his fast regeneration to create enough room to pull her up. He started to swim to the surface, but along the way he noticed something that gave him a clue. He got Fuko to a floating part of the boat, resuscitated her, and told her to put up her hands as they were about to get caught. The jet shines a light on them and asks Andy if he wants to give up, and he says yes, but he's just giving them a little more time for his plan. He wants to use Unluck to get out of it, and it'll help them get a better understanding of how it works. So far, every time Unluck has happened, it's pulled things in from far away like lightning bolt and a meteorite. But what's strange about those times, you ask, are that they were both times where the contact with Fuko and Andy was very valuable to her. So it must have pulled in something proportional to the stroke of Unluck, and this time, He finds something proportional to the unluck, so that's what's going to happen, but when she hears Andy mentioned this time, she's confused because she's never had Andy touch her before, but that's when Andy tells her he had to do CPR, because she drowned and his double Ds got in the way, and he had to move them. She's very embarrassed to know that Andy saw and touched her chest, but Andy says that even after CPR, she didn't wake up, so he did mouth to mouth. Fuko's humiliation is at an all-time high, and so is the volcano on which they are perched as it erupts upwards and crashes into the jet. Now that he is within reach, Andy switches to the Demon Slayer mode and performs a sword strike on the pilot of the jet. However, he is careful not to damage the cockpit, so when the jet spins out of control, he and Fuko climb into the cockpit and use it as a way to escape. They now know that all they need to do is identify something that can be activated by Unluck and have enough contact points to trigger it. Thanks to this, they are still at liberty and even have a new mode of transportation. With this, they can get to Russia very quickly, so they fly full throttle. But by morning, the jet starts its self-destruct sequence because Yumian has probably found out that they have stolen the jet. Because of this, Andy and Fuku have to fly to avoid it, but now they are falling through the sky, but Andy is still smiling because he has a trick to land safely, or at least for Fuku to land on the ground, but he breaks every bow in his body and throws Fuku up to shield her from the impact. Then he ran off as if nothing had happened now that they had landed. He told Fuko to be careful because the negator would be here any minute, but Fuko was too entranced by the beauty of the landscape before her. This was Fuko's first time abroad since she had become a recluse after her misfortune. So Andy told her she could take some time to relax. The Union is more of a clandestine organization, so they probably won't try anything while the media is watching. He tells her that he's going to find one of his war brothers to see if he can help them if things come to it. But before he goes, Fuko asks Andy if the person who came to investigate is reasonable. Maybe they could talk about it, but he says he will kill them. He still needs to earn a place on the 10, so anyone who would be reasonable in such a situation will not be alive. On a side note, Andy asks if Fuko has any food she doesn't like because he has an old friend who has a restaurant he'd like to go to, so when he comes back, they'll go there. But until then, she should have some fun. Unfortunately, Fuko has no idea what he's talking about. She can't interact with the locals because touching her literally kills them, and she can't speak Russian. However, on the beach, she meets a girl painting and she turns out to be Spaceship Girl with force fields, but Fuko doesn't know that she doesn't seem to know Fuko. But she does know that she's from Japan, which she loves, and the girl points out she's wearing an outfit that's very similar to a Japanese school uniform. But Fuko wouldn't know about that because she didn't go to high school. But she notices the girl's painting and comments how pretty it is, and the girl pulls out another canvas and asks Fuko if she'd like to paint with her, and Fuko, who has painted before, doesn't think she's a good painter. And she was going to turn the offer down, but then she remembers Annie's words to have fun, and this will probably be fun. After spending the evening painting together, the girl makes conversation with Fuko and asks her if she likes things to change or things to stay the same. Personally, she likes things that don't change and don't get influenced by things around them, which is why she likes art so much. She doesn't know how to answer this question, so she takes a moment to think about it, and they continue painting together. By nightfall, Fuko is finished and shows her painting to the girl, but she's perplexed by the bright lights around the moon. In this world, we discover that stars are non-existent. However, Fuko believed that the night sky would be more captivating with additional lights, so she decided to add some. Additionally, she had an answer to the girl's question about change. Just 4 days ago, Fuko had been stuck in the same monotonous routine for years. But then she encountered this peculiar individual, and a series of extraordinary events unfolded. These events included some uncomfortable situations being taken against her will, explosions, and even brushes with death. Yet, amidst all the chaos, Fuko managed to transform herself for the better. With this in mind, she truly values the power of change. The girl disagrees with Fuko's answer, but she still understands what Fuko means, as she walks out onto the lake and just standing on the water. To further astonish Fuko, she effortlessly lifts a large chunk of water into the air. Just then, Annie rushes out to the beach and attempts to attack the girl, but she skillfully blocks his attack and pushes him back. Andy, as he falls, jokingly calls her Gina and playfully comments on her heavy makeup before landing next to Fuko. Curious, Fuko asks Andy who the girl is, and he reveals that she is the one who captured him 50 years ago. This revelation implies that Jenna, the girl, must be at least above 60 years old now. Jenna confidently states that she has been briefed on the situation and knows that they have come here to try and kill her in order to take her spot on the 10 seats. However, she warns them that if they want to try and kill her, she won't make it easy for them.
But instead of fighting, Gina runs towards Andy happily. She loves him. He, however, tries to cut her, but fails. Fuko then asks Gina how she looks the same age as her when she caught Andy 50 years ago. Andy adds that Gina was 16 when she got him, so she should be 66 by now. She replies she's eternally 16. Afterwards, we find out she started to love Andy when she guarded him while he was in their lap, but then he escaped without saying anything to her and disappeared for the next 40 years. However, he doesn't listen to her much longer. He throws grenades at her and tries to cut her again, but she has a barrier around her that nothing can break. Fuko then asks where are his friends he was looking for, and he replies they're all dead. After saying that, he starts trying to find out what she actually negates with her power. Gina says this fight would be more fun if Fuko had died from the blast she shot at their boat, but he replies Fuko is his. He won't let her die before he does. Right after, he says he now knows what Gina negates with her power and blows up his body to make his blood show her power. Turns out Gina stops things from changing. All of her invisible attacks have been stopping the air from changing. Her power is called Unchange. Then he grows his body back while putting his head under Fuko's shirt and pulling it out from her shirt's neck. Direct boobs to back contact to activate her unlock. Gina gets upset when she sees that. She tells Fuko it's not right for a girl to behave like that in public. She accuses her of seducing Andy with her melons, but then she warns Fuko not to be too proud because those things will sag eventually, unlike hers due to her unchanged power. But Andy points out she's an external targeter, so what's she talking about? He explains there are two kinds of negators. Self-targeting types like him can only use their powers on themselves, and external targeting types like Fuko affect anyone but themselves. So he says that Gina probably looks so young because she uses a lot of makeup. That makes her angry and she starts attacking him frantically. When she stops for a bit, Fuko speaks to Andy, who is now facing her, and questions him about why she's walking, not running after them. At that moment, he realizes what she's hinting at and praises her for her keen observation. Then Gina tells Fuko that dying is the biggest change for a person, so if Fuko wants to change so bad, she will help her with that. Andy says he agrees with her, but Fuko will not die, only he will. Then we learn what they discovered about Gina's barrier. Turns out it has a hole under her feet for her to walk. So he first makes her barrier red with his blood so she can't see. Later he puts his sword in the hole and Fuko moves the hole to her face. Then Fuko throws his head through the hole so both get hit by the unlock inside. Since unlock outside the barrier wouldn't hurt Gina because her barrier is indestructible. However, her barrier is made of air, so light can go through it just fine, which means the unlock will be light-based. And then it happens. A bright beam of light comes from Gina's ship and hits them both. Gina is dying now. She can't use her power anymore, so her makeup starts to crack. She tells them to go away because she doesn't want them to see her ugly, but Andy hugs her and tells her she's still pretty even with a few wrinkles on her face. Upon hearing that, she kisses him, and then she dies with a smile.
Fuko and Andy share a drink, and Fuko mourns her passing. Andy reflects on his own doubts about killing to survive and thanks Fuko for saving him, but Fuko asks him to help her change the Union, because she doesn't want anyone else to suffer the way she did. He agrees to help her, but then a warp gate opens and they both get picked up. They start to fall and realize they're at the Union, and Andy attacks with his fingers as a greeting, but he's easily stopped. They land in their seats, and Andy orders them all to die, but Shen is glad to see them. Then Andy gets hit by a member named Taishiana because she is angry at him for killing Gina, and another member, Billy, reminds her that fighting between Union members is not allowed. She seems to still want to fight, but in the first seat, Jules tells them not to, and Andy suddenly swings his sword at Fuko. Taishiana is compelled to attack Billy, and Jules inquires if they still wish to proceed. Surprisingly, they both agree to behave. The meeting continues, and Jules introduces a book called Apocalypse. As the book opens, it unveils 6 quests that they must undertake. These quests involve capturing other negators and eliminating certain creatures known as UMA. However, they also offer rewards such as an additional seat in the Union. There's a catch though. They only have until the end of the month to complete all the quests, or else they will face a punishment. Jules instructs Nico, another member, to conduct an analysis. Nico determines that they can only accomplish 3 of the quests, meaning they will have to accept the punishment. Fuko is bewildered by the situation, but the boy beside her, Top, explains that Apocalypse is the first artifact discovered on Earth, and it compels them to undertake a series of unreasonable quests. Fuko is questioning the necessity of listening to it, recalling how Gina's efforts were futile in bringing about any change. Jules clarifies that Earth has undergone 98 modifications encompassing aspects such as language, race, death, and illness. If they fail to intervene, new penalties will be imposed every 3 months, compelling them to strengthen their forces with the ultimate goal of eliminating the creator of Earth, who is imposing these rules upon them. Fuko expresses her discontent with the situation, prompting Judas to inform her that she can bring about change by becoming the number one, as the leader of the union is determined by their accomplishments. Curious about the time it would take, Fuko's thoughts are interrupted when Andy unexpectedly seizes Apocalypse, eager to discover the most challenging quest. However, it bites off his hands and reveals that the one involving an individual named Spoil is the most difficult. Andy quickly agrees to the request, enthusiastically stating that he will do it alongside Fuko and Shen. The request is approved, leaving Shen in disbelief as he is unexpectedly dragged into the situation. On the 21st of the month, we witness Fuko being assisted by Shen's subordinate, Mui, as she gets ready. Mui expresses her hope that Fuko can take care of Shen, revealing that she is unable to join the quest due to lacking an emblem. Despite this, they prepare to embark on their journey. However, Andy accidentally collides with Fuko, resulting in a fiery explosion that destroys his clothes. Undeterred, Andy insists on continuing the quest. Shen advises him that the outfit is essential as it possesses unique properties. Surprisingly, the suit proves to be highly durable, while the tea grants access to various public services and the ability to translate any language. The emblem is also crucial for participating in the quest, yet Andy remains indifferent, declaring that they should split up so he can have a date with Fuko. Suddenly, an alert interrupts their conversation, revealing that one of the UNA creatures in their containment has escaped. The group realizes they're close and Mui discovers the creature's name is Clothes. It has the power to transform into the clothes a person desires most, but Mui warns that it takes control of the host's body. Andy takes a hit, but manages to knock out the attacker. Mui cautions that if the host becomes immobile, Clothes will seek out a new body. Wynn herself falls under Clothes' control, but Andy notices that her appearance remains the same, except for a new emblem. She attacks the group, prompting Andy to ask Shen to use his power to stop her. Unfortunately, Shen reveals that his power doesn't work on Clothes. Fuko tries to intervene, but triggers Mui's ability and knocks her out with a brick. Clothes resumes its attack, targeting Fuko, but Andy saves her just in time and becomes the new host. Fuko is puzzled by the fact that it doesn't appear to be transforming into Clothes, and the creature becomes angry with Andy because he has high expectations, wanting clothes that can regenerate and fly to him whenever he wants. Andy dismisses it as unimpressive, so the creature attempts to attack him, but it gets zapped by a laser when it touches Fuko. Nico apologizes for a malfunctioning artifact, though we can see that Andy has managed to tame the creature and Fuko names it Clothy. Andy earns points for successfully capturing it and moves up to the 9th rank. Meanwhile, Nico receives a report about the sighting of a Yuma in New York. It's described as a decaying corpse, leading them to believe it must be spoiled, but Andy simply gets excited about grabbing a burger in America.
How was the video? We hope it was good. If so, please check these videos. Also, please comment down your thoughts and your suggestions for future videos. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing now to show the support to our channel. We hope to see you soon with another video right in this channel. Have a nice day.